Recording.
We'll have York, but I will say, hey.
Yeah, exactly. I was missing.
Welcome to the 15th KUDO community meeting. I'm Gastón, and I will be your host today. I think we can start by going over the agenda first, and then going through it and talking. If you want to say something, feel free to interrupt me or to add new stuff, change the agenda. We can just change it on the go. So we first have the kickoff, which I'm doing right now. Then project status, we'll talk about the new release that we're planning for tomorrow. KUDO 0.2 will be released tomorrow. Then there's some time to talk about open KEPs and discussion of new KEPs, or also the ones that are living documents and changing right now. Then we can catch up on CFPs that we have submitted stuff for, ideas for CFPs and stuff like that. And then there's some time at the end for open discussions and to wrap things up. Does this sound fine? Does anyone want to add or change anything? No, looks like everything's fine. So project status. I think it was linked to it's linked to the project page that we use on GitHub to track what's going on and what we're working on. Looks pretty good. So there are a few tickets in progress over here. Our idea is to close them by tomorrow, and then tomorrow to work on this one, release on the release one.
Only one of those is for 020. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like we're going to these two here. Bottom two are going to be funded to the next release. So the only outstanding ticket right now is to enhance the CLI, the install command, so it supports a new style, like a new package format. And I will be pairing with Jared to work on that today. To do the release tomorrow, Jared said that he is going to create a Zoom meeting tomorrow morning at around 8 in the morning Eastern time. Anyone is free to join it. I think Ken and Jared are going to be the ones leading this, and they will surely need a lot of help. So the more the merrier. If you can join us, it would be awesome. So yeah, that's basically the status of the projects. I think we have any new KEPs, right? We basically solidified the ones that we had and started implementing them, and are getting things ready for release. Which kind of like brings us to the next point, which would be an update on the open KEPs or discussion of new KEPs. I think there's no new one, but we can discuss all the open ones if anyone has anything that they want to discuss or mention.
Yeah, I definitely want to discuss KEP 9, and I'd love to hear an update on the testing KEP as well, because I need to review that PR. But there's been a lot of discussion that we've had offline in the KUDO channel around how we're handling parameters, and we've gone back and forth between Helm style values.yaml as parameters, so nesting parameters and just having their name in, versus well-structured structs. And I think we have a little bit of contention right now in the direction that we want to go, or at least not as much clarity as I'd like in the way that we want to go, because on one direction we want to be able to import and extend Helm charts, and Helm chart assumes nested parameters, whereas the format we settled on in KEP 9 seems to make that a little bit more difficult. So that's something I just wanted to address and discuss maybe for a few minutes, and pick a direction and go with it. I'll just throw out my bias real quick. Actually, I won't. I'll just open it to discussion.
I'll throw out mine then.
Sure.
So this relates to my PR about ingesting Helm charts as they're currently defined. And my mission on what I wanted to do there was not have anybody have to maintain a copy of a Helm repo in another format. And one of the mechanisms that we were talking about was turning the Helm folder structure into a KUDO folder structure and then importing that KUDO folder structure. I wanted to maintain that as allow the Helm folder structure to exist so that when companies and orgs manage their Helm repos, they don't need to also update the corresponding KUDO repo that could be used as a base for extensions inside of KUDO. And with that, they have very specific parameters, but I think I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
I see where you're going, and my worry about that in particular right now is, so we have the extends format, right, that we've talked about for the next version, and we've talked about ejecting out of that, similar to like Webpack or something, where you can then generate out the formats.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about that is there's with extends, there's a clear window. Like everything comes in as a deploy plan, and we have the TBD overriding language to override plans and templates and whatnot, right?
Yep.
And then once that gets too complicated, you bring it in the KUDO format. I would rather see where that breaks down before adding in yet another way of sucking in like Helm on disk. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like,
yeah. So you're saying that there's probably going to be a need at some point, anyways, for a conversion of a Helm repo into a KUDO repo, because the complexity of some of those charts is too much to just extend it.
Yeah, I want to see what people do before we commit too much, right? And what people are missing. I think extends is going to take up most of our time in the next release for a couple of us, just to get the semantics right? I'm a little worried about this PR. I'd rather spend more time on this one and get it right, or go baby steps with it.
So do you want me to hold off on my Helm conversion till next release and just worry about?
No, I think we should just maybe. Because we could always write a separate little CLI that converts, that does this for the moment, right? And not including KUDO core and play with it for a little bit,
mm-hmm.
and iterate on some frameworks and see what we think. I know like someone was working on a GitLab operator and was wanting to even build out a CLI that did that. So maybe we just like have a little side, I don't know, little CLI that to test it and see how we feel.
Sure.
But and this gets into another question, like params we started creating a window back into when we were working on the Helm to the Helm extension, right? We were working on a CLI or a YAML format to port a KUDO parameter into a Helm value.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on what that format is, that may not even be relevant, right? So if we go nested parameters and then just suck in Helm charts directly, that reduces even what we'll have to do there, right? Instead of having to go to KUDO parameter format, a values file is effectively a parameters file.
Right. It was almost like I was creating a new interpreter that allowed for a different format, folder structure, and just fitting it into our same storage mechanism, rather than adhering to the one that we decided in KEP 9.
Yeah. I would rather be able to, like, because eventually, like, I'd rather say that, hey, you can extend from some interface, or you can convert some interface into KUDO format.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you can't do that, those things, open an issue with us and we'll figure that out.
Right.
I mean, we could even consider like extensions as something we're iffy on versus just converting it to our file structure. Because what's the goal here is to get someone started with KUDO really quickly, right? Like add some plans to your Helm chart.
Okay. So step 1, convert your Helm chart. Step 2, add plans.
Right. And then phase 2 of that, extend your Helm chart, add plans.
Right.
And then maybe step 3 is, okay, well, we have those things. What does it look like to extend a local Helm chart in the same directory? Because maybe you just say like Helm fetch into your local directory and boom, you're done with some directive. And maybe that's a totally valid way to go about it, achieving that same goal. I don't know. I'm just
where should that be discussed on which cap?
9.
All right.
That's all. We started the extensions and bases section. So coming into 030, yeah, let's revive that activity there. So that leads us to flat parameters or nested parameters. I'm leaning more and more towards nested parameters like values.yaml.
And then you define defaults by just putting them in the YAML, and then like descriptions, comments are just above. Can we extract that nicely?
That one I don't. Yeah, that's a problem still. I don't know.
Because I do like the ability to add extra properties to a parameter, whether it's default or required or
validations.
Triggers, which are another one that I don't know how we capture with nested values.yaml structure, validation, regex.
Yeah. So let's keep it flat let's keep it how we have it for today, for tomorrow, and
right.
When I do that install story, then next release we'll talk about it till we turn blue.
Yeah.
My only worry with flat parameters at this point is, so like the dot syntax you were suggesting, I don't think it's going to play well with Go templates. I think it's going to mess up life in there pretty badly. Mm-hmm. And then rewriting parameter names into like underscores or dashes or something also worries me. But I want to be able to alter things in the Helm chart. So one thing I think worked out potentially for us was when we started doing the extension and having the port from parameters into values. And maybe we can explore that route some more.
So why can't well, I think this will be the solution we do. If we have a dot in our parameters name, internally our structure then becomes nested for our map that's internal. We have a map, not string, but string interface. And if we need to just split all the keys at every level. And if there is a subkey, we need to now make another submap inside of there so that we can pass that into Sprig fine. And then we're not having actual parameter names with dots in them. We're leveraging internally the storage structure that Helm has, but we're providing a better interface from a flat perspective with defaults and triggers and descriptions.
Let's talk about it in the cap, because I need to see what that looks like too.
Yep. I'm
not sure right now.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. Without having much context, to see that somewhere without me.
Just trust me, guys.
Sure, always.
Uh-oh, that's not good.
No, I do trust you. Cool. Any other updates on KEPs or open questions? Or do you want to go over the open pull requests?
Before we go too far off of project, it might, we're about ready to close out 020, which is great. I think that's looks like it's on target. When will we be grooming for the test to be prepared for Monday? to start working on 030 or whatever the next bump is.
I'll put something on the calendar for a 030.
Fortunately, there's some
on Monday.
carryover, which will be something, which will be great. But it's weird to call it fortunate, but it's nice that we'll have something that we can work on. But we definitely ahead of it.
Probably Monday, Tuesday, because we don't really even have. We need to go look at the outstanding KEPs and identify what's there, and then figure out what KEPs we want to write based on that. So yeah, maybe we do that early next week, Monday, Tuesday. Sound good too?
Yeah, and if we do it on the calendar, let's make sure we use also the KUDO community calendar so that people can join. Yeah.
That's great.
Do we already know like what the theme will be, or like main changes will be focused on for next release, or that's what we
No. Yeah, that's what we'll determine. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Some of the previous conversation might fall right into that. So, but that said, it'd be nice to be explicit.
So shall we talk about the test harness?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you all want to see a demo or do you watch the test harness?
Oh, that was pretty noisy.
Yeah, Fabi just completely muted your voice with that.
Sorry.
I asked, do you guys want to see a demo or did you already watch the thing?
I haven't had a chance to watch the thing.
All right, so let me.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay, so can you all see that okay?
Yep.
Okay, so basically we have a test here so we have a very basic test or framework called test framework, and that's defined somewhere else. And then so this is the actual instance of it that we want to test. So what the framework's going to do is it's going to install this instance, and then it's going to wait for whatever we've defined in our assertion file to be true. So in this case, we're waiting for the instance to deploy an Nginx. And then there's a second stage. So after that is completed, then it's going to set the number of replicas to 4. Right now you have to define everything for each step because we're not doing like a strategic merge or anything, but that can come later. And then our assertion verifies that replicas changed to 4. So now we can run this test. When I run it right now, we're going to run it against a real Kubernetes cluster. Well, actually it's a K3's cluster, but that's not important. So we're going to use go test to run it, which will probably change in the future. But right now that gives us free caching.
So our assertions, can you assert on any spec field?
Yeah, you can specify any number of fields that you want to, and it will just make sure that all of those are set. We might want that to be more expressive in the future. For example, making sure that a field is not there. But right now, you can specify as little or as much of the spec as you want, and it will check to make sure that's all correct.
That's really cool.
Is the assertion eventually true, or is it?
Yeah, so there's a
sample.
Yeah, so you can override the timeout. I think by default it's like 10 seconds or something, but it basically just waits 10 seconds and polls until everything that you've defined is true at the same time. And then it will fail if after 10 seconds it does not come true. And then you can override the timeout or test as well if you have something that takes 2 minutes to run or something. So our test failed, and that is expected because we don't actually have KUDO running in this cluster. So we can tell the harness to start KUDO, and that will use my current build of it. So it'll build it and run it as a part of this. And the test passes, and actually looks like it was cached, but it's okay. So it started KUDO, and then it ran the tests that we've defined. Now, if you don't have a Kubernetes cluster, you can still run certain tests, and we can tell it to start a control plane. And what that will do is it will start the Kube API server and its CD using the controller runtimes M tests or whatever. And then so let's go ahead and run that. So it's going to run the control plane with KUDO in it. And then this is going to fail because the control plane that it starts up is completely empty. It doesn't have the framework or CRDs installed yet. So now we tell it about the CRDs to install. I think that, yeah. And we're using environment variables because otherwise the Go test framework will not do the caching if you do arguments. But we can like write a wrapper script or something. I'm still trying to work out exactly how we can leverage the Go caching without having to ship the Go compiler. So otherwise we may just forego that. So now it installed the CRDs, but the framework itself wasn't installed. So now we just need to tell it manifest dir equals big samples test framework. And then this is effectively a unit test. You can test how KUDO behaves. You can test how a framework renders. This is actually making sure that KUDO upgrades our deployment, but it doesn't actually verify that the deployment deploys correctly. And then, I don't have the demo ready, but we can also do the frameworks repo. We have some tests defined in. And you can run it against, whatever real frameworks you want as well. And that can run against a real Kubernetes cluster, a K3s cluster, just a mock CD, anything you want. So that's that. The PR is up. It's obviously pretty large, about 2,000 lines of code, unfortunately. Elena had an interesting comment that we might want to think about breaking it out into a separate repo, since it doesn't really depend on any of the KUDO code and is relatively generic. But I think would potentially add friction to making changes, and I don't know how that would affect ownership of it. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that as well.
I'm okay with it being part of the main repo. It's part of the KUDO as a tool, right? It gives better opportunities to integrate it.
Yeah, so I also, when I saw that, I think it's awesome because we can test many cases, right? The one thing, what I was thinking is where for a framework developer, how the story would go there, and maybe we write just a lot of documentation for when you build your framework, how you also test it, and where those tests should live, and that's maybe also something that needs to be discussed in a way. And then I also like that this is just doing framework tests, but also build upon it for the CLI then in the future, I think would be also great to do all test cases.
I've been starting to think about how we can integrate like the CLI into that workflow as well.
Exactly, yeah. Right, so no, I really love it. Other feedback?
Yeah.
The demo very nice. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that was a really cool demo. Is there a way, so let's say you have a backup or restore plan. What would you envision as far as a way of testing that a backup or restore to MySQL actually worked? So you run a job that has a side effect and you want to test that side effect.
Yeah. So we have in the Zookeeper job, there's a validation phase or step, I don't know. And basically that like runs a container that checks something is set. So you would basically have like a phase that's like write data, and then you'd run your backup, and then you'd run restore, and then have a phase that checks that it's restored or something like that. Yeah,
that makes sense.
That's kind of what I was envisioning. I don't know if we need to something more like handholdy or not. I don't know how to abstract that.
Or another way would be you have your validation phase that creates a config map, and then you have an assertion that like looks if the name of the config map that way exists or something, or so. Like having this feedback. Okay. Yeah.
Does that validation plan, step, whatever task need to be part of the framework version, or can you add additional?
Yeah, I was envisioning that we would leverage KUDO to do that. Yeah, so it would be a part of the framework version unless there's a way to add
like an extension.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so the next steps on that would basically be getting all of everyone's comments in, addressing those, and then integrating it into the framework CI, and then writing user documentation so people know how to like actually write tests.
Well, so where can we give you comments or there?
There's a PR open.
Yeah. Okay.
The one for Cap 8.
Great.
And then we should probably also like have, like, this is right now the test framework that you have, right? Maybe we should do that as an example based on Zookeeper, how that would look like.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. The test that I wrote in the frameworks repository is a Zookeeper.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And actually, if you watch the demo, I'm pretty sure it found a bug in KUDO. So
yeah, what so there was the race condition, right? When
that was my code, but the other one, the upgrade in Zookeeper doesn't happen correctly, and I'm not sure why.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Anyone else has any other topic they want to bring up, discuss, or updates?
I saw that Nick left. He posted something in the chat. Maybe it's just a quick update. Gastón, you want to maybe like talk about that real quick, or should we do that later?
Yeah. So he said he had added some items to the spreadsheet that our York had created or shared with us last meeting. So I just link to it here, and we can take a look. Basically, I think he posted or submitted some proposals to quite some meetups. I see it's not just him as a presenter, but also Matt. And he, before leaving, he said that he also wanted to catch up with some people about the other things that are now in the document. We'll just add it here. He would probably ping us after, again, probably tomorrow or something like that. But yeah, I find this project pretty cool to track what we have submitted so far.
Any updates?
Think, yeah.
Any updates on submission for KubeCon?
I think he left, so I don't have any here. He probably would have, but maybe we can like defer that for the next meeting.
Yeah, I guess these are like some ideas of talks that we could give.
Yeah, I think that was my input. I don't think we want to just do like an overview of KUDO. I think we want to talk about impact or relationship with other entities around CNCF, and whether that's, getting operators into Kubernetes more easily with Flink, or, extending Helm to do some edge cases that certain people need. And those certain people, maybe we want to talk about some relationship that maybe Mesosphere has with a client that they would like to, that they were able to help out with KUDO, or some improvements inside of core Kubernetes about, dynamic CRDs and how we helped push the envelope there. I think all those are good. I think we're a little early on some of them, but I think that's kind of where I would like to see.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Focusing on how KUDO can help you and has helped other people, and what it brings to the table, what's new, and not just an introduction to KUDO. That sounds very valuable for people that don't know what KUDO is and now wondering where they should read about that or not.
Right. But we need to get there first. We can't talk about the improvements that we made on customers without having customers that had improvements.
Sure.
All right. I can talk a little bit about Sparta and Cap 300. If you if there are no okay, good. I'll just talk then. Let me share my. Can I share my screen, Gastón?
It's all yours.
Wow. Okay. So what we're trying to do with Cap 300 is with a PR 300. Sorry. Is that we try to land that today. So there are some rejections and some comments that we will work on today. But if you would like clone and try out that branch, I created already a few cloud storage buckets. The one that we think is and settled for is official is the KUDO repository, this one here, which looks like this. And what I spent yesterday my time with was like basically just like bringing everything into that folder structure. So you see we have Elastic, we have Flink, we have Kafka, Redis, and Zookeeper. So those should be the current like frameworks that we have in our KUDO Builder frameworks repo. And so you could use the CLI then and install already all of those packages from there in that index file. And yeah, here. That's basically also discussed in here. And what we also do then is update after probably we merge this one, the cap 10 and also respectively cap 3 to represent the changes and the logic that we implemented and merged there. So feel free also please to look over this. I saw there was already, or there are already a lot of comments, which is great. It's a little bigger one, so we also wanted to not add too more to it, especially for 0.2.0, and just probably iterate and maybe make a few more things in 0.3.0 then. But yeah, happy to hear your feedback. There's a discussion going on in the Slack channel, and of course here as well. And you see there are already a few of them already outdated. So, but all of this should be mergeable hopefully by end of day today. So. I think that's from my side. Are there any questions? Interesting thing is how the index file looks like. Let's see, do I have that somewhere here? Yeah. So you would have essentially like this the index file. So all the repos that you have are in this format, and it's under the repo underline index go. You see the struct that defines actually this one here. And the interesting part is here the URLs one, where you then just point to the actual TGC file that has then been downloaded by the CLI. And so the idea that I proposed there, I don't know if there was a comment yet, I haven't checked actually, was to have, you see this one here, you can have multiple ones. So if you have multiple ones, it's kind of like round robin or mirrors or so. If one of them wouldn't work, it would go to the next one, but it would not be a thing that would merge multiple different ones. It's always the same one and external. So that's also been discussed in the Slack channel by Alena. So yeah, that's kind of like the structure and architecture that we were thinking of. Yeah.
Is there any plans around like assigning or checksumming the packages?
Yes, so there's a comment also by Alena how Crew does it with probably a SHA. So I think we like that for now. We're using here HTTPS, and I think that's for 0.3 or 0.4 maybe. Something that we then start implementing. For now, we really just want to get that rolling and see if it breaks. And yeah, but that's probably crew inspired. All right. More questions? No? All right. Then I leave the stage and open up for new people.
Okay. I think we're all excited about moving to Google and not having to put our Git credentials anymore there. So that's amazing. All right, so now we're reaching the end of the agenda. So we have some time for open discussions. Otherwise, and we just have to find a new host for next week. Don't want to forget that. So I guess we can start with that and then see where there's anything else we want to discuss. So who wants to volunteer or to be volunteered?
I can do it.
Awesome, thanks. Then I will sign you up. Same time as this one, or do we want to change anything?
I vote for the same time.
This time also works good for me.
Good.
I know all the rest.
All right, this will be then KUDO meeting number 16. So I started numerating them, so we have also numbers. And what I'll also add there is like probably figure out how to upload those recorded videos to YouTube, because what I really like, for instance, with the demo today, that you can like link the actual like time, so you can jump right into, versus I haven't seen that feature when you just have the Zoom recording. So I think that is also a little bit more collaborative. So trying to figure out how to upload the long KUDO community meetings on our YouTube channel, I guess.
Okay. Okay, then we have a host now. I think we have discussed pretty much everything and had ample opportunities, but if there's a last one now, if you have anything you want to share with the community, do so now or wait till next week.
All right, I guess nothing from our side. All right. All right, bye everyone. Thanks for hosting us, Gastón. Awesome job.
Bye.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.
It's a pleasure. Bye, see you.